That's right. 50-50 Coffee, Chicks, and Comics. Con season is finally here.
Woo!
And this is a special episode of Coffee, Chicks, and Comics where I am your host, Nisha Mars, with my co host here, Jesse G.
Hello, hello.
And we are going to be talking for 30 minutes about Con inside the 50-50 Comics booth. We have some awesome, exciting treats for you tonight. And we're going to start disclosing it by jumping right into all of our comics. So, if you guys don't know, 50-50 Comics has been established since August of 2021. And it's been almost 4 years since our very first book, which came out in, no, I'm sorry, August of 2020. Yeah,
I
because
was
our
thinking
first
that
book,
I'm like, I feel like it's been a little bit
it
longer
has,
now.
it has already been 4 years. So, but our first book rolled out in April or March of
Mhm.
2021, and it was
Mhm.
piloting con season, and we kicked it off with the Natura, The End Is My Beginning, which yes, I wrote, but Jesse colored, and Lee did all of the really cool illustrations inside. So, first of all, doing a comic is not easy. Between the
It's
two of
really
us,
not.
trying to get everybody to do every little thing, it is the hardest thing in the world to do. But we made it happen. And I actually like dressing up more than I like writing the book. So, but in this book, so this kicks off issue one of the Notorious series. For you, those who have not read the Notorious series, it is the constant rebirth, recreation, and evolution as it seeks a natural balance. And what happens is we have two different universes that are all on the same plane, fighting for a balance between good and evil. Um, you also have things happening with metahumans. You have things happening with binary gods. You have things happening with evil known as Zenith, which we have not dived into completely yet, so we won't give anything away on that end. But you also have what's coming up, which is our humans that are turning into these ill horde creatures that are the undead. And when we say undead, we mean that they are living creatures that have literally taken the embodiment host of a zombie like human, based on things that they have done or did that kind of made them into this horde like being. And so my team and us struggle and have to be reminded daily of what that means because we're like, what do you mean? I mean, he has a hole in his chest. Isn't he dead? No, he's not dead yet. So you meet this one guy, right? And you're like, no, he clearly is dead, right? Like he looks like he's decayed. His flesh is kind of off. It's all muscle. There's a hole in his heart. Like he's pretty dead, but he's not. So the Desora has a
Just need to
way
clear
of
the air right now. He is not dead.
he's not dead.
Promise.
Part of the undead. And Lee will be very proud of me that I actually said that he is undead and not a dead zombie creature because he's a zombie like creature. um, so we definitely want to make those definitions there, but you can definitely find this book and more inside of the booth this year. So we're only going to be talking about the 50-50 booth. If you guys have ever been to a con, and as you saw in my clip, there are many, many people that dress up as all their favorite artists and different characters, different comic book or artists, different fantasy creatures. And then there's all these million things to do when you're at the con. It's not like going to a carnival or going to the amusement park where all you really want to do is eat food, because that's just me. I like literally go to carnivals for the elephant ear. But you can literally go to people watch, and it is the best thing on the earth. They do have like a gaming segment for those gamers, so don't feel left out, gamers. They definitely have a space for you guys, and you guys can also participate in different competitions where you can win prizes and game live and be known as the novelist in Tekken 4 or Tekken 8. It's Tekken 8, right? That just came out. So it's like the last Tekken. Um, I know my boyfriend's
I
going to kill
have
me. I am
no idea.
not bad at I was like, the last time he asked me, I was like, I know nothing about Tekken. The last video game I have ever played was Mortal Kombat. So do not get me to lie about Tekken anything. We will not even discuss that on this show because I don't want to, you know, misconstrue or say anything that the fans will be like, no. So we're just gonna avoid it altogether. There is no Tekken on Coffee Chicks and Comics. You know nothing about that. But there are different animes that are out there. Obviously, your favorite sci-fi dramas, such as Star Trek or Star Wars or um, Final Fantasies, or if you are a anime person, like what's the last anime that I'm watching? Well, Blue Eyed Samurai or
Demon Slayer,
Demon Slayer.
Death
Uh,
Note.
yeah, Yeah, so you can find all of that and more at Comic Con. The other cool thing that you can find is vendors that do more than just comic books and more than just um, fan nostalgia. They actually like there's some people that are making custom made jewelry there. You can pick up your next. If you visit our booth, we actually team up with one of our artists, and he is the author of the Silas issue. But you can team up with Ricky Rott, who also is the Crystal Daddy and known for his famous Ilala jewelry, and his wife Nunu, who actually does a lot of crochet knitted apparel. And you can actually find that inside of our booth as well. And he'll make anything from rings to arm amulets to he makes crowns. He makes actually the elf ears, and he uses all these crystals, all these beautiful stones and stuff that he finds throughout the U.S. as he travels. Um, and he actually twists the metal himself. So he literally will make you a piece right there on site, no questions asked. So that is one of the cool things. I think the last time we all teamed up together, I got elf ears. And my mom actually, she was a junkie. She got a ring, and then she got a bracelet, and then she got the necklace. So, and he also does crowns. He had, I don't want to call them wands. It's more like a saber. No, well, no, it might be a wand. So, but he does that. He also does the tree of life. He has these beautiful crystal tree of lives, and yeah, you can also find him on Ilala Jury. You can find them on Instagram or Facebook. You can also find them under the name Crystal Daddy, or you can find them under New Knits. And you can check out all of their items. So, Jess, what is your favorite part of Comic Con season? What is your favorite thing to do at con?
I'm gonna have to say getting all the comic books, but I think my favorite's going to the indie comic tables and seeing what everybody else comes up with, because it's stuff that you don't normally find in everyday comic book stores, or if you don't get to go to a lot of shows or something like that, you don't really walk into all these cool stories.
Yeah.
And I find that it's a great place to really explore and expand like your comic collection.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And underground, I think underground comics is right now. It's like the new end. It's like the complete
Hmm.
zen of wanting to escape that whole traditional, just constant Marvel, DC, and what?
I have a good question. I can't even take credit for it because I saw it on the Indie Comics Facebook group. Um oh no, I can't remember the name of the thing.
Uh oh.
Um okay, I'm gonna have to pull it up. Why don't you keep talking? I'm gonna pull it up because I also don't want to not credit this person either.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
So
hang on.
while we are waiting on Just, we are going to just dive right on in. So as I mentioned, that 50/50 Comics has multiple issues coming at you live this year. We have a grand total of 7 new release books. Um, 4 of the stories are actually already pre-existing from the last 3 years, and then we have 2 more that we are hoping to hit Comic Palooza in Houston this May. So, but when I get started, first issue of the Natura verse. If you are looking for the Natura series, issue 1, The End is My Beginning. This kind of sets up the stage of what's going on in the world. We are looking at who the players are, we are looking at what the threat is, and we are looking at what's to come. It's also introducing what we call our essence characters, who are just they're not so much trainers as they are the influencer of the person's powers that is bestowed upon them. And they kind of are their guide through how they learn how to use their powers. So we have several different characters. Some are ordained and some are meta. So that is something key to keep point of, because everybody always gets confused. Is it a meta, or is it somebody that's naturally born or gifted with the power? Well, in this particular issue, there are at least 3 metas. No, I'm sorry, 2 metas and 2 actual ordains. So we meet Silas, we meet Ida, you meet Lycos. Oh, ooh, I'm putting it wrong. Lycos is over here. You have Silas over here. You have Ida, and then you meet Mars. So, and they kind of set it up with meeting who their character is, what their powers may or may not be. Mars is actually the amateur one of the group. She actually has not had her powers long, so she has no intent on showing how to use them out in public just yet. So this is issue 1 of the Natura series. Issue 2 of the Natura series, we jump right into the Natura verse. So as I mentioned, there are 2 realms. You have your earthly realm, and then you have the Natura realm. And the Natura realm is where the binary gods exist. It's also where all the planets exist. So it's basically like our solar system. In this one, you meet all the binary gods. You meet the creators, and you also meet the big bad, which is Zenith. You don't get to learn completely about Zenith, though, because what we do get to discover is how the threat came to be on our Earth. What we also get to discover is how long they've been battling this threat. So this is one of these written by Leons and Lee, who are my partners. And this one, it's full of different just background information, getting to know, knowing how ordains are chosen, how ordains get their powers, uh, where the powers stem from, the elementals. It also has a lot of graphics to um, how the Earth was born, and that this was not the first Earth. So it hints to that. It also hints to the Tree of Life. You get to meet some cool characters like Isocronus. You also get to meet some other helpers along the way. So this is issue 2 of the Natura verse. Josh, you still looking?
No, I found it.
You found
Okay.
it? All right, we'll
Yeah.
take a break and head on over. What do you got?
Okay, so the creator is JJ's Comics and stuff.
Okay.
Or sorry, JJ's Comic Stuff. My bad. Sorry, JJ's Comic Stuff. Anyways, in the indie Facebook group, he posed a question. He was wondering if, well, one of the questions I found intriguing was if he was wondering if we think as indie comic creators if doing one-off comics are better than doing an entire series, and wanted to know our opinion on that. I personally think that one-off comics are we one-off comics have potential to do more, like it has potential to be more popular because it's a one-off
Hmm.
and there's not as much commitment, especially if you're not sure if you are 100% in with the company, because like comic companies like Indigo and Vertigo, they build up their brand over time, so you kind of like trust, like, oh, they have like an indie comic on there, then you could you're more likely to read it.
Hmm.
So I think one-off comics are really cool that way. And I think that a series has a lot more financial commitment for our consumers, and sometimes that's a little bit challenging for people.
Hmm.
But I wanted to
And
remember this question because I was like, I want to know your thoughts because you, I mean, we work together, you know. So like,
we
what's
do,
what's your
we do, and that is such a great question because I mean, I'm kind of in the boat. I think I'm in the boat similar to you, but mine's the same. Like, so our one-off comics, which in in our story, we technically do have our one-off comics. We have our off stories that kind of lead to the series, which then leads to the whole entire having a series comic, right? So I think either way, if we actually did individual character stories like Trapper and then Hurricane and then Silas and even Lycos, that then we could potentially still come back and then do a Notoriverse, even though they're all facing their own issues and their own big bads and all their own separate stories. So I'm game for either way. I think I would agree that doing a series is a more financial risk, but the benefit of it is that when you're doing a series doesn't necessarily stay the same. And I think that's where everybody kind of gets confused. Like, just because it's a series does not mean that the story arc does not change, does not mean that you couldn't spin off into one off comics, right? So, as we saw with Marvel, they have a series with the Avengers, but then they have all these one-offs with Captain America. I was about to say Captain Planet,
oh.
Captain America. And they even did Wanda. They did Loki. So they have all of these one-offs that kind of go,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I've never really looked at those people as individuals before. So now I've looked at them as an individual. Now I can see why they fit as partners in an actual series. So I think it kind of can work hand in hand. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because you do the one and done or one off that you can just say, all right, that's it. It's not like a song, like some people do the one hit wonders and then they're done. But it's
Yeah.
not like that. I think comics have a broader perspective of that. It's not,
Mhm.
you can do a one hit wonder and then 15 years later, even after you sold that one book 20 billion times, you can literally just write a second story to it and then automatically turn it into a series, and nobody would have been the wiser or thought that you were doing it as a one off. So I think it's all depends. I think it depends on how invested, like you said, how invested in the timeline are you, how invested financially are you, and then how invested into the story arc are you. Do you want to expand? Do you want to grow a universe? Do you want to make your own entities and your own powers and your own characters? Or is it something that you're like, okay, yeah, it was cool. I just really wanted to see this come to life. It came to life. I'm good. So it really all depends on the artist and the author.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. So you got any more?
No,
That
that was it.
was actually really good. I'm getting ready to
That
dive
was
in.
it. I got
So what?
I got my one good question in. I hit my quota. I'm good.
That was your
It's
walk for
good.
tonight.
That was it. That was all. That's all I wanted to do today. Oh,
Well, that
we should probably reach out to him and see if he wants to be on a podcast.
That would be really dope.
Because
Yes.
he also has a podcast, though I cannot remember the name at all. So we'll have to yeah,
Okay.
we should
Yeah,
we
let's
should
do that
see. We should see.
for sure. For sure. Matter of fact, we've reached out to a couple other people. As you know, this is Coffee Chicks and Comics Flip the Table season. So it's not going to be so much about us and it's not so much about 50-50. We want to make it evenly killed and turn the tables on people who have turned the tables on us for the last 2 years. So we have been inviting some of our favorite podcasters on, and we're going over things that that's going on in their lives and things that are happening on their podcast, as well as some new materials and how they can tie it into comics. If you guys caught our last show, we just had Denzel Sills from Sills the Man on. He was wonderful. We talked about relationships, and we also talked about comic book relationships, and it was a great little 45-minute session. So, diving back into our 50-50 booth now.
Sorry, I
We have
really had to ask that question.
issue 3 of our Natura series. You're hired. This was a collab writing, and I'm going to tell you now, it is not easy. Just like it's not easy to come up with the comic book, it is definitely not easy to do a collab writing with two people that have completely different writing styles. My co-writer here, Brandon X Bell, also known as Brandon X Bell. um, he writes for Lycos the Metal Wolf, and he does a phenomenal job at expressing how angry and vigilante-ish and above the rules this guy is. But in this one, he kind of had to humble himself, and so we get to see where Moses Black screws up on a mission and then has to hire help, which is me, Mars. So in the end, he ends up with a sidekick that he never wanted under the advisement of his wife, Veronica. But it was all for the good to actually find out why the Elemental One, which we don't know too much about, but it's what infuses him, but it's also what infuses Mars with their powers, why it's making him very angry. And he's been infused since he was a kid. So you get to see how they came to be. You get to see some backstory on Mars, and get to learn a little bit of her history at MIT before she went to go work for Moses Black. It's a really good read, and it's also a lot of back. It was really fun to write. It really was really fun to write because you had the action, you had the drama, and then you had the boring parts. But all in all, it was a great story. So, um, my favorite thing to do at Comic Con. When I say people watch, I mean all the fan hotties that we drool over in the movie theaters and we drool over on TV. So my last Comic Con, I got to be in the booth with who did I go? Oh, I met John Constantine, the character, the guy that plays John Constantine. I can't remember his name. I always just call him John Constantine, and I feel very terrible that I can't remember his name right now because he's a very sweet guy. Like he's a really sweet, down to earth guy. And he got to dance with us, and he hung out, and he snapped selfies, and he signed our photos. It was a great time. So those are just some of the genuine artists that you get to meet along the way, that are actors that have like kind of mentored you through whatever time period that you lived in. I got to meet one of the characters from Charmed at one point.
Oh, that would
Um,
be cool.
yeah, it was. It was absolutely amazing. I got to meet Hora before she died, and so some of those things is just it's a nostalgia point, and then it's a really awesome. It was awesome. Like Michelle Nichols, if you guys had never met her before she passed, rest her soul, she one gave a voice to Black women in sci-fi. Two, she is just the sweetest, and she reminded me of my grandma. Like she was just the sweetest lady you can ever meet, and I loved her jewelry line that she came out with. I loved a lot of the stuff that she did as far as outreach for her community. there were so many different things and endeavors that she dabbled in before she passed. But her forever role is going to be Ahura from, and I hope I'm saying the name right because sometimes I screw it up. Um, but from Star Trek. So yeah, that's it.
Nice.
That's what I got. So that was my little walking out of the booth. So walking back into the booth, we're also going to have T-shirts. We'll have mugs. We'll have glassware. We'll have fan art like posters, um, and then we have, depending on where you're at, you may get to come across one of our other creators. So we also have Pierce and Lexington Con in March. So Pierce is going to be at Lexington Con in March. And then Ricky's going to be at the IndyCon in March. So if you're in the Kentucky area or the Indiana area between March 22nd through the 24th, you will find a 50-50 booth manned by one of our artists or one of our writers. So this will be a good time to go get a signed book, take pictures, see what other things they do, because Pierce also has a lot of other things that he dabbles in. He does a lot of fan art. Um, yeah, I think that would be good. And if you ever want to look Pierce up, he is on. He's on. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. It's Metropol. He has this
Oh
long
God.
metal Morphosis,
Uh,
Morphosis or Metropolis 11. But you can Instagram Pierce Birdsong and find him either on Facebook or Instagram for sure. Or you can go to our website, and if you click on each of these team members' pictures, it will take you to their Instagram page. Jesse, you froze on me. All right. Well, while Jesse comes back to us slowly, we're going to dive right back into the 50-50 booth. And as we were talking about our single stories, we have Trapper. So we have our dad story. So you have Trapper 1, enough is en- Trapper 1, enough is enough. And then you have Trapper 2, enough is enough part 2. And in the story, you get to meet Tyree Tufts, who is a single dad, single widow dad to Kaya, who has inherited a power passed on through a totem from his wife. And he has not actually changed yet. So he's not exactly fully Trapper yet. He's just a man who wants to take back his streets from the gangs and all the gang rivals that are going on in the story. So you get to learn about his local challenges of gang turf wars. This is not a book for anybody under the age of 13. It does start with a drive-by shooting. So there is some violence in it, and there is some fist fighting in it. So we do recommend, and each of our books do have warnings. Lycos is not meant for anybody under the age of 17. So I know everybody loves our Metal Wolf, but our Metal Wolf is not like Iron Man, people. He was not meant for younger viewers. Do not buy Lycos the Metal Wolf, aka Iron Man, for your 5-year-old. You will be very traumatized. Do not buy Lycos the Metal Wolf for anybody under the age of 17. The language is strongly advised against, and it is heavy with violence. So, if you are going to let them engage in Lycos the Metal Wolf, this is the only PG-13 book on the Lycos line, and it's the You're Hired issue. And even this one does start off with a little bit of violence. So, Jess, you have a little one. So, what would you advise out of our collection so far for your little one to read?
oh, I would definitely say the Natura, both of them, both the Natura, not the Lycos one.
Okay.
Um,
Did you let her read Hurricane?
Yes. And Silas. Yes.
So,
Yes.
speaking of that, which brings us to our last two actual physical books to show you tonight, we have Hurricane Ida, and our big bad here is Blackfin, and you get to see him right on the back of the cover, so you know how dangerous it can get. But Blackfin actually meets Hurricane as Hurricane is having a family day out to the beach with her cousins, and he actually tries to kidnap her baby cousin. And so, what you get to see in this book is how much she risked her life to save her little cousin, but also she did not back down, even though she was outmatched by a extremely strong metahuman. And for that, her will was rewarded with having ordained powers, and you get to see that as well. So you get to meet her essence, you get to meet how she comes into her powers. And this summer, hopefully, you'll get to see more of Hurricane, as the story is now going to be written and illustrated and told by no one other than Mr. Lee Johnson. So I'm excited to see what he does with this character. Heather and Art set the bar for this character extremely high. Um, but as you can see from some of the new art that's out there on our Instagram page and our website, Hurricane has some good stuff coming up. And if you missed it, she did have a mini issue, and it is still available on Kindle. It's called Hurricane Hearts, and it's just about her little bit of love life, and it's good for teens that like to be all romantic-y, or it's good for like a chick flick book. And it's a very short, like less than 5 minute book to read. But the issue was greatly illustrated by Heather before she left the group, and it was also colored by Jess. So yeah, pretty good. Last one, but not least, our heartthrob, our Fabio, our 8-pack guru, our surfboard king, Ricky's favorite number one man, Lee's favorite fun fire character to draw, and now we have two other artists also illustrating him. You have Silas, Surfboards and Brimstone. Now this one is fun. Silas has that sarcastic, funny humor. He's just a big surfer dude. All he wants to do is catch waves, work out with his buds, run his little surfboard shop. But fate has other plans for him as he meets his essence and furnace, and he just goes, "Hey, dude, you gotta fight." He just kicks him in there. Like he's like, "What are you talking about? I gotta fight. I'm out here catching waves. I'm not trying to fight anybody." So he's telling them about this threat. He's trying to get them ready. He infuses them with these powers, and then all of a sudden, on the beach, out of nowhere, here comes these zombies again. They're back. I'm sorry, our ill horde. Here comes our undead ill horde again, right? So this one is fun. You get to see some characters. It's also vibrant in color, which I really love. Lee did a great job with that, just kind of setting the monotones for that. And I mean, it's just one of those power books. Like, you just get to learn who this character is, what he is expecting to do, and what his big bads are. We have yet to actually see, but he knows more about what the threat is than any of the other characters that were divulged. So, as you can see, issue one of the Notorious series, again, it was it was set for the future content of what will take place, but all of these other books were set for how they came into their powers and then how they would get here. So it's a great read all the way around. There are 7 great issues. They're available both digitally, and they are also available on paperback. You can order them directly on our website, or you can
What other kind of book is
paperback. Paperback. you can You can order them on our website. You can see us at a booth this coming up spring and summer, or you can shop on Amazon. We have multiple platforms. We are working on getting up our Instagram shop because we know some of you guys like to socialize and shop. So we are working on getting that up. But until then, I mean, feel free to just drop in and purchase a book. So some of the upcoming shows. So here we go. You ready? All right. So starting next month, March 22nd and through the 24th, we will be at the Lexington Con with Pierce. You'll be at the IndieCon with Ricky. Starting in April, pending. We are pending, and I hope you guys are watching. Maybe at Cleveland's Wizard Con, but we are pending. So if not, you can find me at the Juneteenth Festival at University Heights if you're here in Ohio and Cleveland, or you can find us later in June at San Antonio's MiniCon, and we'll be having a booth there. We'll also be unveiling a short story for Lycos and Elemental One, which should be really, really fun. And Lee and Brandon are working on that right now as well. And then if you are in the Houston area in May, you can stop by Gulf Coast Comics. They actually shelve our books, which is fun. So if you're looking for that in-person brick and mortar feel, Gulf Coast Comics in Houston, Texas. Or you can stop by Comic Palooza, and I believe that is the 16th through the 19th, and you can see Lee, Leonce, Ricky. It's going to be an all-star cast running that booth, but we'll be at Comic Palooza that entire weekend. So there you have it. We have 5 cons coming up, 5 outings, and for kids, we will be at Junior Con on March 1st here in Cleveland. Lake Erie Inc. puts it on every year. It's always fun. We'll be hosting a creative workshop as well as doing a panel discussion, and we'll host a table for you to shop at. So I think that is it for Comic-Con season, y'all. As you see me in my Mojo Jojo Tuesday and my Star Wars mug for what's in the cup.
I don't have anything in the. Oh, I lied. I have a Tim's iced coffee cup.
All right.
I almost forgot about that. I'm glad I looked around.
So that wraps
I
up.
was like,
That wraps up our abrupt evening episode of Coffee, Chicks, and Comics Flips the Table, and we're going from con to 50/50 Comics booth. So until next time, we'll see you later. Night, y'all.
Welcome to the late night circus where you could be a freak.